Far out in the uncharted backwaters of the unfashionable end of the western spiral arm of the galaxy lies a small, unregarded yellow sun. Orbiting this at a distance of roughly 92 million miles is an utterly insignificant little blue-green planet whose ape-descendant life forms are so amazingly primitive that two of them still think doing a podcast called Digital Watches are a pretty neat idea is a pretty neat idea. These podcasters have, or rather had, a problem, which was this. Actually, this is the solution. So, Jeff, what is this?
Well, Brian, this is issue 4 of the IDW comic, Douglas Adams' Dirk Gently's Holistic Detective Agency.
And there's our buddy Dirk.
A lot of possessives in that title.
Yeah, exactly.
And Dirk is surrounded by, looks like, 5 mummies.
Towering over his shoulder while he's staring deeply at his cell phone.
His special gold phone.
Oh, yeah, that's true. That's probably Crowther's phone.
Yes.
And we have our regular group of Rael, Kyriaz, Lindsay, and O'Grady on the cover.
So, as typical, the first page is going to remind us of where we were with a previously page. So this is reminding us of a couple things. First, it's reminding us that Neferhotep is on a power surge and really likes being a god and decides to dress the part. Dirk finds out that Kate Schechter has been watching him all this time with drones. It reminds us that Dirk tried to change his jacket to get away from the drones, and Crowther is jealous because he never gets clothes that good when he asks people to switch clothes. And then Bill Parsnip comes in, puts a chair under the doorknob to wedge it closed, and tells Dirk to hang up the phone, and he tells Kate that he'll call her back.
If he's able. Oh my goodness.
The next page is the Persane page, and nobody new is appearing in this issue, so all the same players.
Nope, but oddly enough, on this page, Dirk Gently looks like Burt Reynolds for some reason.
Yes, he does, yeah.
That's weird. On the cover page, he looked like Elvis.
Right.
Oh my gosh, they can't decide what he looks like.
No, his appearance does change.
And we're back to looking at our favorite Mr. Hotep as his skeletal face and oddly decored head.
Yes. Yeah. So we will move to the first page of the story. So it seems that Bill is there trying to get back his bag, or his tools, we'll say, that Dirk took from the airport. But rather than doing everything he asks, even though he's holding a gun, Dirk and Craig are talking about the phone.
So in the first panel, we see Bill pull out his gun, pointing it at the group. And as you said, Dirk is completely ignoring him. He's telling Craig that he is confounded by this phone, and he's asking Bill to be quiet while he takes a look at it. And then Craig goes on to say, I've never used this kind of communication device before, but somehow it feels familiar.
Yeah, he was saying later that it seems to move energy around in ways similar to both he and Neferhotep do. Then Dirk, of course, becomes grammar police and says Neferhotep and me.
And, of course, Susan is yelling at Dirk, trying to get him to pay attention to Bill, who's flipping the gun back and forth angrily as Dirk completely ignores him.
Yes.
Dirk tells Susan to hold on a minute. This is really fascinating. And besides, Bill, you're a famous serial killer copycat, and there are no coffee shop killings that are on your list. So what are you doing here anyway?
Yeah. So Dirk is really taking a leap of faith here, counting on Bill only killing people in the style of previous serial killers and not being a coffeehouse serial killer. He feels perfectly safe. But I think my favorite part is Crowther just throws his hands up and he's like, I'm taking no chances after what happened to Virgil. And then in the background, you've got Susan and Tanya talking, and Susan is telling Tanya that she liked it better when she had no customers.
Right. And of course, I still think it's funny on the very first panel of the page where Bill is threatening the whole group. Of course, his bag full of killing instruments is just casually sitting on a table within 5 feet of him.
Yes.
So it's not as if he could just go over there, pick it up, and walk out.
Right. All right. On to page 2. Bill is telling Dirk that he and Estelle were on vacation and he's ruined it all. And Dirk is wanting to know if he's talking about his wife, and Bill wants to know where she is. And he said, the last I saw of her, your wife's essence was being sucked into a reincarnated Egyptian associated with my friend Craig here.
Right, and then, of course, Craig is trying to backpedal a little, saying, oh, he's not a close associate. Well, he's not anymore. And actually, while we're speaking about Neferhotep, perhaps we ought to check on him to see what he's doing, because he could do the same thing to someone other than this crazy man's wife.
Yes. And Dirk is telling him not to worry because, remember, everything is connected and we'll either be led right to him or him to us, possibly in revenge on you, Craig, for leaving him. Makes no difference.
And the whole time, of course, Bill is becoming more and more frantic and angry. And now he's announcing that he's going to kill both of them.
Yes.
That's Craig and Dirk.
Right. In revenge for his wife's demise.
Right.
And he's at point blank range from Dirk.
Exactly.
I mean, he's got that gun pretty much right to his chest, and Hamish is all bent over covering his ears. Crowther's arms are up in the air. Craig and Tanya are kind of backing away. Susan is looking in horror. And then the gun goes off.
Right. Now, imagine your favorite panel on this one is the second one down, where Crowther's just got his arms outstretched above his head, making a face like he's trying to become part of the wall.
Yes, exactly. My actual favorite part of this page is the different expressions that Dirk has for really no apparent reason. He looks completely drunk in the second panel.
He does indeed.
I don't even want to know what it looks like when he's remembering something in the third panel. He's got like duck lips and he's looking up at the ceiling. It's just, his eyes are rolled.
And somehow, of course, in the bottom panel, Susan has gotten behind Bill.
Yes.
So I'm not sure what's going on back there, but of course we see blam and the gun firing.
Right.
At the very bottom.
Well, it appears this book is going to be a lot shorter than we expected because Dirk is laying on the floor with a hole in his chest in a big pool of blood.
That's right. The full panel of the page shows Bill with his murder bag in his right hand, his gun in his left, and the smoke from the gunshot wafting up into the air, and various peoples are responding to what appears to be the death of Dirk.
Yes.
Where he's got a hole in his upper left-hand quadrant of his body, his eyes blankly staring at the ceiling.
And all of his cohorts are just terrified and in disbelief. And Bill is saying, tell me you didn't all want to do that.
Absolutely.
Okay, now, next page, page 4, for, I'm guessing, a miraculous resurrection. Well, there's not been a resurrection yet. Dirk is still on the floor, but I do want to commend the artists because Tanya's face has the perfect depiction of fear and anger and sadness and frustration and just general all pissed offness to it.
And I love her comment in the first panel. She says, I mean, yes, he was annoying, very much so. Grating to where you'd want to Van Gogh your own ear off at times. But he didn't deserve to die.
And Bill says, he was and he did. And now he's dead either way, so it's a moot point. Now, my wife.
And then Hamish says, dude, we really didn't touch her. Last we saw her, she was at the Hotel Del. She looked thirsty, but alive.
Yeah, then he threatens to sick Craig on him to do the same thing to him that Neferhotep did to Estelle.
And Craig claims that was a Neff thing, not a me thing.
Right. Yeah. So Bill's on his way out, saying that he only came for his bag and for Dirk. And shooting everybody there without Estelle to enjoy it with him, what's the point? But
right.
If something's wrong with Estelle or she's hurt or dead, he'll be back. Okay, page 5. After Bill left, everybody rushes around Dirk and they're trying to figure out what to do. And Susan wants the phone from Crowther so she can call 911.
Crowther, of course, objects to that. It's his phone.
Right.
And then Tanya yells at him, damn it, then you make the call. Call 911. Maybe Dirk's still alive.
And Hamish is like, no, not so much.
And then Craig says, everyone, please calm down. I think I can help, but I need some quiet. And then in the second to last panel, he says, bringing Dirk back will require absolute concentration on my part.
And then there seems to be a flashback to 347 BC, as he's saying there's no time to lose.
Interesting.
All right. Page 6.
Well, this page is amazing, Jeff, and God bless you if you can get through it.
Yeah, try to follow what's happening here, people.
Oh.
So basically, Craig goes up to Crowther and does talk him out of his phone, and Tanya again is still saying to just call for help. Craig's like, hey, I got this. Me and Dirk figured out that Crowther's phone was just slowly taking the energy out of him. So now all I have to do is move that energy back into Dirk.
And Tanya, at that point, Tanya said, could that really work?
And Craig says, I have absolutely no idea.
And then we have the odd pages, right? The odd panels start in the middle of this page.
Right. Craig is just hoping that the phone's signal will continue until they find out if it works. And it starts out with an all-white panel and Dirk laying on the ground. So this is sort of like the in-between stage, kind of between life and death is what I'm guessing. And he hears, Dirk, it's time to come back.
And Dirk says, shh, sleeping.
It's like, come back.
Sleeping.
Come
sleeping.
back.
I don't want to. Oh, drat the phone, he says at the bottom.
And the phone rings, and an image of Douglas Adams slowly appears, panel by panel by panel.
Oh my gosh.
On to page 7. So now we see Craig leaning over Dirk, holding the phone to his body, and all of the green energies going into or out of Craig's mouth with the phone buzzing. And then Dirk is waking up saying 42. So they just throw that in there.
Yep, they had to throw that in there somewhere, right?
I guess when he was in the in-between, he had a revelation of what the ultimate answer was.
Mm-hmm.
And so then he wakes up saying, there we go. You did just what I hoped you would. Now, where were we? And to me, it's making it sound like Dirk wanted to be shot and brought back to life to prove the phone would do that, which seems a stretch.
Oh, it does seem a bit of a stretch. I don't know. Maybe he's just doing his regular BS bullshit, you know?
Oh, the Pee Wee Herman, I meant to do that.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Okay.
And then, of course, Tanya embraces him, runs into his arms, and screams Dirk.
So Dirk is saying, oh, no fussing. It's always darkest before the dawn and all that, right?
And then, of course, Dirk sticks his finger through his jacket where the hole is.
Yes.
And with great resolve at the bottom of the page, he says,
it's time to go get my jacket back. And it's really not written in that type of inflection, but his face with his clenched fist up at his jaw certainly implies it.
Yes, it does.
I don't know why he wants his jacket that badly.
No, I don't have any idea.
I mean, yes, what he's wearing has blood on it, but
that's right.
Any old jacket will do.
Mm-hmm.
And then the artist who drew this must really like drawing Crowther because he's got the best expressions.
Oh, he does, doesn't he?
So now that Craig is done bringing Dirk back to life, he's giving the phone back to Crowther.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, God damn.
That's one powerful phone, huh? That's great.
Page 8. So this page also starts off with a flashback. So I'm going to think back to the first time we saw this at the bottom of 2 pages ago, where it was 347 BC or something like that, and there was a figure walking through this mist pretty far away. It's now 200 AD, and he's much closer. Mm-hmm. So it's seeming like somebody is coming in through time, and I'm not sure who it is because we seem to have Dirk saying, I just hope there are no more unwelcome bullets or other such surprises headed my way. So I'm not sure if this is Neferhotep or if this is somebody else from the past coming forward. We are not being told who this is.
No, we are not.
But then they jump to the present. And Dirk is happy because he has his new jacket.
Or his old jacket.
Or his old jacket. Tanya's telling him that she's had enough.
Right. Tanya says, Dirk, after all, I don't know how much more of this I can really take. Reincarnation, serial killers, soul-powered phones.
And Dirk gives her the, you can't make an omelet without breaking any eggs. But he says he'd prefer not to be one of the eggs.
Oh. Then, of course, he writes a note for Kate on his little pad of paper, throws it on the ground, and tells Kate to meet him in 10 minutes at the museum.
And that is seen by one of her drones. Page 9. So Kate is telling Dirk that the drone saw everything, but it was too far away to identify who the gunman was, and has no idea how he survived. And I like Dirk's little dig, because he says, it was divine intervention, which you're intimately familiar with, yes?
Uh-huh.
And then he tells her that the writing on the wall that they're inspecting at the museum is much, much more important than all of that, him coming back to life and everything.
Right. And I don't know how or where or why Dirk is able to figure this out, but at this point he's talking to Craig, and he says to Craig, you know what this means? And Craig says, yeah, I just wasn't made for these times. So he's basically kind of like saying goodbye, I guess, at this point.
Yeah. Resigning himself to going back.
Right. And Dirk then instructs Carlos and Bobby, who were not looking very healthy at the moment.
No.
Still desiccated from their experience.
Yes.
To go ahead and wipe the drawing off the wall.
Right.
Which I'm going to make an interpretation here. I don't know if this is the right track or not, but I'm assuming that what Dirk is thinking, that when the hieroglyphics are washed off the wall, that Craig's time looping will continue and Craig himself will disappear. And I believe that's what Craig is thinking at the same time.
Yes, it does seem that.
But
he didn't.
Because at the bottom of the page, Dirk turns to him and says, you're still here.
Right. And he's saying that he didn't feel any pull. And if it's harder than it should be to send me back.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. So one of the reasons that it's popping into my mind that it might not have worked is that there was a copy of the drawing done in Kate's notebook.
Right. And, of course, Dirk took that copy of Kate's and ripped it out of the notebook and threw it in the trash.
But it still exists.
Right. It still exists. And not only that one, but he then pencil shaded over her writing. And there was another copy then, I'm assuming, in Dirk's notebook still. Right.
So now there's 2 copies out there. So maybe they have to destroy both of those.
Makes sense to me. Time loops are all kinds of fun.
Yes. All right, page 10. On this page, then, they continue the sentiment with, if it's so difficult to send Craig back, how much more difficult will it be with Neferhotep?
Mm-hmm.
And Hote there is looking at a gala opening flyer for the King Atenkamen exhibit.
Yeah, he's looking very fleshly there. Quite well filled out.
Yes. Yes, he is fed.
Mm-hmm.
And he is going to show King Atenkamen who the better ruler would be. And now all that remains is making others pay.
And then in the middle of that page, there's another gentleman that's kind of sort of paying attention to him. And he says, hey, maybe you ought to take it down a notch, man.
And Oates, you dare speak to me?
What's your deal? YOLO, man. Relax a bit, he says.
And then, as a flashback to the early 60s sitcoms, Oates says, I know not who this YOLO is you pray to, but you are right. I really should just relax. Perhaps I'm just hungry.
And he says to him, no, YOLO, man, like you only live once?
And he's like, once? Haha, I have LMTO.
Limto?
Lived many times over. Ah, never mind. Just lead me somewhere quiet that I may eat.
Oh, gosh.
Page 11. Once again, on the top of the page, we have that flashback, this time to 1642 AD. The person is closer than before and seems to be dressed as a Spanish conquistador.
Mm-hmm. He does indeed.
And while that's happening, we have Hote saying that he needs nourishment for what is coming.
And then we find our favorite couple sitting at their window drinking coffee.
Yes, and it's very obvious that they've got Estelle all with a hood over her, facing away from the viewer, so you can't see her face. And Bill's trying to cheer her up. You know, they're still on vacation. I want to use this time to exact terrible revenge.
Absolutely. And Estelle says, and I love you for that, Bill, but crossing names off the list right now doesn't seem as much fun anymore. And in the next panel, you see her desiccated face turning towards Bill.
Yes.
And she says, I know I certainly can't enjoy it like I used to.
And then Bill has an idea, and he's looking at the gala opening of the Atenkamen exhibit, and he thinks that they can forego the list because what he has in mind will earn us a spot atop any such list. So, sounds like they want to make a name for themselves rather than to be copycats.
That's right. Meanwhile, back on the ranch.
Yeah. And Estelle is looking a bit rough. So, page 12. So we jump back to the cafe called Gumshoes and Tea Leaves, which is owned by Susan and Tanya.
Mm-hmm.
And from inside, you can hear, "Ah, it's murder!" And then you see that that's just Dirk struggling with a bow tie.
Mm-hmm.
He decides to call the bow tie a Charles Bow creation, saying it has outlived its use.
And then, of course, Tanya says, here, let me do that. Also, Charles Bow, question mark?
And he's like, a man into self-bondage, truly.
And then Tanya says, do you really think it's smart to go to the public gala?
And Susan's like, if it means an end to all the weirdness, I'm okay with it. And Dirk is saying that, I thought you resented my detective work.
And then, of course, Susan goes, I don't share Tanya's affinity for all the old books, but I do love the accessories, so let's go get this done. And she's got a great big magnifying glass that's perched above her eye, which is enlarged tremendously.
She's also saying that they don't have enough regular customers to lose anymore, so they've got to finish this.
Oh, great.
And then again, Crowther catches my eye because while Dirk is struggling tying on his bow tie, Crowther seems to have a pre-tied one that's just ready to slip around his neck.
Yeah, exactly.
On to page 13. So Dirk is talking to the group, and he's basically telling them that tonight they're all going to learn just how interconnectedness works. And Tanya's like, well, at least we'll all be dressed nice.
Tanya goes on to say that she'll be with the band, but she'll have her eyes open just like a proper associate.
Assistant.
Says Dirk insistently. And then Crowther is speaking with Craig.
Yes. And he's a bit confused. Like, who are we paying back? The guy that sucked all the energy out of these people, or the two that killed my friend Virgil?
And Craig says, one or the other. And then Dirk goes, both, and perhaps more.
And Hamish, still trying to weasel his way in, says, and that's why you need help, right? Maybe for the next case, I can help you full time.
To which Dirk responds.
And I like that he does finally concede. He says, survive tonight, and then we'll talk. Perhaps my associate Tanya will need an assistant of her own.
She finally got her upgrade.
Yes. And then the phone rings.
Mm-hmm. Susan picks up the phone and says, Dirk gently is answering service. How may I help you? And then she responds, Kate. Oh, yes, he's here.
All right. So page 14. This page is a little harder to talk about, not because it's confusing, but it's not so much plot-driven as the friendly banter.
Right. Exactly.
So Dirk and Kate are talking on the phone, and Dirk is just trying to make sure that Kate has her team in place. And Kate is explaining that I don't have a team, I don't have a place, and I can't go to my supervisors with resurrection and keep my job. So...
Exactly. She says reincarnation and soul-sucking phones. I don't think people are going to believe that. And then, of course, she says, you're not going to make me say it, are you?
Yes, he is.
Fine. God help me, but I'm forced to rely on you. So get outside. I'm waiting for you.
And then Dirk is trying to stall and say, most assuredly, let us just get dressed. We'll be right out.
And she screams, you're dressed now. In fact, that tie is almost becoming on you.
How can you possibly know? Oh, damn it. And he sees a drone.
Inside the cafe. Hovering above the ceiling.
Unnoticed.
Yeah, exactly. And the bottom panel is a large stretch limousine waiting for the group.
And he says that they're going to come right out. Page 15. We have arrived at the gala opening for King Atencamen's exhibit.
Right.
And here it seems that Hamish is talking with Dirk and asking him about his theory of relativity.
And Dirk, of course, says interconnectivity.
Yeah, all that. It just means that we're actually connected now, right? Like partners?
And Dirk says, not at all. You, in particular, still seem to be, at best, interconnective adjacent.
Yeah, interconnectivity adjacent. That is.
That's really out there on the fringe, isn't it?
Yes. And we've got our friend coming. We have what really wouldn't be a flashback because it is tonight, and he's really close, and he's in black tie.
Right.
So whoever has been traveling through time to get there has arrived.
That is correct.
So page 16. So now we're inside the gala, and Tanya is talking to Kate, and she's kind of confused, saying, "Just you here from the agency tonight, Kate? No offense."
And Kate says, well, some taken. And while it might seem I'm the only one watching out for you all tonight, it depends on where you think to look.
And she says there are always other eyes watching. And it's pretty cool. They got this picture of the banner for the Atencommon exhibit, and you can see drones that are kind of disappearing into the background.
Mm-hmm. It's an interesting page. They've got one large panel across the left-hand side of the gala with the streaming banner down the side showing the different people mingling together. And then all the action takes place on the right-hand side of the page. On the bottom of the page, Tanya and Susan are wishing each other the best of luck and see you soon, she says.
Yes, with a little smooch. So I'm looking at all of the party guests to see if there's anything interesting in there. And the only thing that I find interesting with all the party guests and the waiters is there's a guy right in the middle double barreling it. He's got a drink in each hand and he's just pounding one down. Everybody else is just toasting, but he's sucking them down.
Yeah, exactly.
So on to page 17. So they flash to outside and they just say nearby. And Bill and Estelle are walking up the road toward the gala. And Bill is saying, almost there, my dear. And she keeps complaining because she's like very tired.
And then Bill says, you only need a little time to kill, my darling, and then you can rest. And she says, yes. And then Bill waves to a gentleman on the street. He says, hello, my good man. Nice day for a fay, isn't it?
Yes, indeed. And then we get a zoom in on who he was talking to. He said, it's a nice era for a party.
And of course, it's our famous friend, the immortal Mr. Bird.
Right. And I'm not really sure how they expect to sneak Estelle into that party because she's not recovered yet from her ordeal and she's still looking a bit rough. So we'll go on to page 18.
I really like the way this page is laid out. It's really kind of interesting. Just to talk about the flow of the page, across the top three panels, left, center, and right, they have the same waiter apparently passing hors d'oeuvres across the group.
Yep.
And in each of the separate panels, there's a different variety of characters responding to the waiter.
Right. Yeah, first one's Dirk and Crowther.
And Dirk looks like a chipmunk with his face all full of food.
Yeah, he says he's trying to understand the motivations of Neferhotep and his insatiable appetite, so he is just shoveling in as much food as he can.
It's great.
The second panel is Bill and Estelle.
And here Bill says, no, thanks. We've got other appetites in mind tonight.
Yes. third is Mr. Bird.
Interesting comment Mr. Bird makes, huh?
Yes, he's saying, doesn't mind if he does, but the bacon-wrapped scallops from the Khrushchev reception in 1959 will be tough to beat as far as appetizers go. Say what you will about the Soviets, but they really knew their hors d'oeuvres.
Yes, a time traveler.
And then opening ceremonies. Welcome one and all to the grandest exhibit ever to grace the San Diego Natural History Museum, the world debut of the great King Tutankhamun's treasures, of which he seems to be holding a few and waving them around from the podium, which seems a little bit odd.
Yes, recklessly.
So then as the speaker trails off, we go back to our group, and they're all worried about Neferhotep showing up.
Right, and here Craig says, I don't feel the vibration that he causes when he's near to me.
He's like, oh, the tonal anomaly caused during your earlier time travel mishap.
And then, of course, Craig says, still, just because I don't sense him yet, ...
Page 19. So again, there's the continuance of the sentiment. Does not mean he is not somewhere close by. And of course, right on cue,
walking up the street,
he shows up at the check-in table where somebody wants the last name first, please.
And he says, my name is Neferhotep. And he starts to drain the life energy out of everyone standing nearby.
Yes. And he calls himself Neferhotep the First, the sole survivor, the ruler of the desert wastes, the Lord of the Nile, Neferhotep, the King. So, here we go. Page 20. So Neferhotep walks into the gala, closes the giant glass doors, grabs a drink off of a tray, being very impressed to have an aperitif before his coronation.
And the waiter says, would you like any appetizers with that?
And he's like, no need. I just ate. And they flash back to outside where a bunch of decimated, desiccated, dehydrated people just laying on the ground with green steam coming out of them.
And in the bottom panel, we see a close-up of his face and kind of the reminiscence of the Joker. He says, and now it's time to mingle.
And on the bottom it says, to be concluded. Means me and you are actually connected now, right? Like partners?
Yep, and that's the end of this comic book.
And after the to be concluded page, they have a page that is telling us what's coming next month.
Next month, will the museum's gala event for King Tutankhamun, a serial killing couple, a soul-stealing phone, all wrap up nicely here? Of course not. Luckily, Dirk wouldn't have it any other way.
And then it's showing the party, and it seems that we have Bill and Estelle has got a gun, but she's still pretty rough looking. Bill has a knife, Dirk has a drink, and Neferhotep is looking a bit annoyed.
And I love the fact that Dirk's cufflink is a kitten.
That's right, yes.
Oh, what fun, what fun.
Yes.
Well, that appears to be the last page of this comic.
It is.
So now that we've reached the end of this comic book, Jeff, what's next?
Well, last month I did 3 weeks in a row of the first 3 issues, so this month the first 2 weeks are going to be the first 2 issues of this. So check next week for the 5th and final issue of Douglas Adams, Dirk Gently's Holistic Detective Agency.
Well, Jeff, since we know what's coming next, I'll have to say that this is the end.
Thank you for listening to this. A new episode is released on the first Thursday of every month. A special thank you goes out to Luke, Max, Greg, and Tim Lesnick for arranging and performing our opening theme. Visit our website at digitalwatchesareaprettynneatidea.buzzsprout.com. While there, you can find links to all of my Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy inspired t-shirt designs. You can contact us via email at digitalwatchespodcast@gmail.com. You can find us on YouTube and Facebook at Digital Watches Are a Pretty Neat Idea. You can message us on Twitter, or should I say X, at Watches Idea, and our Instagram is Watches Idea Podcast.
This has been a Froods for Thought production.